We are going to lecture today on the Revolutionary War, Part 2. And I believe we told you, and it's also said in the video, is most of the Revolutionary War has been fought in the north, and now the Revolutionary War is going to move to the south. And I believe that's even our first subtopic, is the Revolutionary War moves to the south. So all the fighting's really been done in the north. That was the reason why the British worked so hard to try to separate New England from the rest of the colonies, because they thought they would have a better chance of winning in the south if they did that. It's in 1780 that the British Army is going to move the Revolutionary War to the south, in 1780. And what their goal is going to be is, if they gain control of the south, then they're going to refocus and go back where? North, because that's where most of the issues are, in the north. So what they're going to try to do is, I didn't say they were going to, win a bunch of victories in the south. They think they can go down there and control the south. They think they have a chance to control the southern colonies. They believe it will be easier to capture these important ports and agricultural centers in the south. Why? Why is it going to be easy to gain control of the south?
Because we're loyalists.
Very good. There are there's a large number of loyalists in the south. And the British really believe that it'll be easy to go down there and gain control of important ports down there, to gain control of important agricultural centers in the south, because most, if not a big majority of the southerners are loyalists. There's a lot of loyalists down there. And they're going to be more for their cause. Now, we kind of talked about this. Does anybody remember the reason why there's so many loyalists in the South? Why are these people in the South so loyal to England? Go ahead, Alex. There are a lot of colonial merchants that trade. They're making great profits because of their trade with Great Britain. The people that are in the agricultural business in the South are selling their goods, are they not, to the merchants? And they're making good money that way. So people are a lot happier with England in the south than obviously they are in the north. So the British believe it's going to be easier to gain control of important ports and agricultural centers located in the south, since there are a large number of loyalists there. And the reason for so many loyalists in the south is that the merchants and farmers, basically plantation owners, are making great profits because of their trade with Great Britain. So what do the loyalists in the south have to gain from independence from Britain? What do they have to gain? Nothing. All they're going to lose is what?
Money.
Money. They're going to lose great profits. So that's what the British are banking on as the war moves to the south, is that the loyalists in the south will have nothing to gain from independence from Britain, only losses and profits with their trade with the mother country. So, will the British have any problem occupying southern ports?
No.
Especially early. By December of 1778, and we're going back a couple of years, they had already gained control of Savannah, Georgia, which was a very important port in the south. So clear back in December of 1778, 2 years prior to what we're talking about, the British had already gained control of Savannah, Georgia, which is a port city in Georgia. In December of 1778, the British had already seized Savannah, Georgia. Now, in May of 1780, American General Benjamin Lincoln surrendered Charleston, South Carolina, to the British. So in May of 1780, American General Benjamin Lincoln surrendered Charleston, South Carolina, to the British, another very important port city in the south. So they're not having much trouble here gaining these important port cities in the south early in this war in the south. In December of 1778, the British seized Savannah, Georgia, and in May of 1780, American General Benjamin Lincoln surrendered Charleston, South Carolina, and along with the port city, he surrendered 5,000 American troops. So that was kind of a big one for the British. Not only did they get Charleston, South Carolina, they also acquired 5,000 American troops who surrendered. Now, some points to make on this. From these two bases of Savannah, Georgia and Charleston, South Carolina, the British can move where they want, when they want throughout the South. They have not really met any resistance. And so what are they going to do? What's their plan to do now that they've kind of got control of those port cities? What are they going to do in the South?
Stack up the military.
Well, they're going to try to terrorize what group of people that live there? Patriots. Very good, yeah. Their goal is simply to raid the countryside. They're going to plunder and burn everything, attempting to terrorize the patriots that are living there into submission. They're going to try to gain control of the South. They've got loyalists that are going to help them, and they're going to basically try to drive every patriot they can either out of the South or into submission to the British. Well, actually, right off the bat, the colonies of Georgia and South Carolina, mainly because they had gotten their harbors, they fall to the British, and loyalist militias are guarding the captured territory. Loyalists, American colonists that are loyalists, have formed militias, and they are going to be guarding both the colony of Georgia and South Carolina against the Patriots. So the colonies of Georgia and Carolina are going to be under the control of the British, and they're going to have loyalist militias guard that captured territory. Now here's what's kind of interesting. By the end of 1780, more than 8,000 American colonists who are loyalists are actually fighting against the American Revolution. 8,000. So about 8,000 American colonists who are loyalists are fighting against the American Revolution. It's going to make it pretty tough for us to win our freedom, isn't it? If we've got 8,000 of our own people fighting on the British side. Now, we're not talking about fighting in battle so much right now. That'll maybe come later. But they're certainly fighting against, philosophically, the American Revolution. That's a lot of people. 8,000 people that aren't supporting the colonial cause for freedom. Well,
They're fighting who?
they're fighting against this philosophy of the American Revolution. They are not for it, right? We have 8,000 people that are helping the British cause. Well, we better have somebody on our side in the South, shouldn't we? We're going to have some people try to help us. And one particular civilian in the South that is trying to help the American cause is a lady by the name of Nancy Hart. Did you have her? There you go. Nancy Hart. Alec, can you give me a description physically of this woman?
So she was a pretty big person, like large in stature, and she was not very smart at all. I think they said that she didn't have a very good education.
She didn't have very good education. That doesn't mean necessarily you're not smart.
Yeah.
But she didn't have very good education. A very big-boned woman, so to speak, right? How was she pretty? Was she kind of a pretty gal? No, she was not really a pretty gal.
Yeah.
But, hey, you wait and see what she does here. So one of these civilians that's going to try to help the Patriot cause in the South is Nancy Hart. She's the mother of 8 children. She's an unspoken patriot living in the backwoods of Georgia. So she's a mother of 8. She's an unspoken patriot. What does that mean, Wyatt? Unspoken patriot. You're an unspoken wrestler. What does that mean?
No one knows.
Nobody really knows that you're a wrestler, but you're pretty good. Okay, you're for the cause, but nobody knows. I don't know how that would even make sense in wrestling, but yeah, nobody really knows. She's an unspoken patriot, so not a lot of people around here know that she's a patriot, and she lives in the backwoods of Georgia. What's her husband out doing? He's not home much. What's he out doing for the cause?
Fighting the war.
He's fighting in the militia. He's fighting in the Georgia militia against Great Britain, so he's not there too much. Okay? So she's often left alone with her children. So her husband's out fighting in the Georgia militia for the American cause, and she's often left home with her 8 children. Well, between taking care of 8 children, which would be a job, and the chores that go along with that, not only taking care of your kids, but running the small farm and all the things, because your husband's away. She also finds time to serve as a patriot spy. Okay? So despite her busy schedule, all the chores she has to tend to keep the home front going and to take care of her 8 children, she dedicates herself on occasion to serve as a patriot spy. Now, this is nothing against her, so not to be judgmental, but I kind of set it up with Alec. Because of her height, she was over 6 feet tall, and her masculine appearance, she would disguise herself as a man in many cases and spy for the Patriots. Okay, so because of her height, over 6 foot tall, and her masculine appearance, Nancy Hart would often disguise herself as a man. And she would cross into British military camps posing as what? Not a recruit, but a loyalist. Okay, they saw her as a loyalist man. They thought she was a loyalist male. And she would cross into these British military camps posing as a loyalist man, and she would gather information from those camps, and then she would relay that information to the Patriot side in the South. So that's kind of what she did in her spare time, so to speak. She served as a Patriot spy because of her height, over 6 foot, and her masculine appearance. She would disguise herself as a man. She would pass into British military camps. They would think she was a loyalist. And she would gather information from these camps and relay them back to the Patriot side in the South. Well, not knowing her very well, she was often harassed by the local loyalist militia. Just harassed in general. Not because they thought she was a spy, but that she just lived in the backwoods of Georgia and maybe didn't commit herself as a loyalist. She just kind of was. I said she was what? What'd I call her? Quiet? Unspoken patriot. I mean, as far as these local militia, a loyalist militia, she's just a poor lady there without her husband. They kind of picked on her in a way. They came by several times and harassed her. They knew her husband was gone. She was an easy target. These men were not very nice people, and they'd often stop by her house and harass her. Not because they thought she was a Patriot spy, but just for something to do. Well, these loyalist militia were looking for a Patriot rebel that had run off from them. They were trying to find this Patriot rebel. And they stop out at her house and they accuse her of harboring this Patriot rebel. In other words, hiding him on her farm. And they don't do this because they think she's a Patriot spy. They just do this to kind of harass her because that's what they've been doing. So they stop by her farm and they accuse her of harboring a Patriot rebel in her home. So she's confronted by this loyalist militia for hiding out this Patriot. Now, was she harboring a Patriot? She was not. And even though she could say, I'm not doing it, she wouldn't cooperate with them. Made her mad because they had been there before, harassing her. So even though she wasn't harboring any Patriot spy, she didn't deny it. Well, kind of she did, but she basically refused to cooperate. Just was not going to cooperate. Well, because of her lack of cooperation, these loyalist militia decide to try to intimidate her, just kind of getting at her a little bit. So they decide they're going to intimidate her a little bit. So they shoot one of her own turkeys and force her to clean, cook, and feed it to them as they stay there and continually harass her. So these loyalist militia show up and confront her about harboring a Patriot rebel. She doesn't cooperate. They begin to intimidate her. You'll see this on the video tomorrow. And they end up shooting one of her own turkeys and make her clean it, cook it, and feed it to them, which makes her a little angry, to say the least. And she doesn't resist. Okay, why doesn't she resist them? Well, she's going to come up with a plan, but why doesn't she resist them? Why does she get after them?
She's going to poison that turkey.
No. What does she have to protect there?
Her children.
Her 8 children. So, she doesn't trust these guys. These guys are ruthless. And so to protect her children, she does not resist. But as Alex said, she comes up with a plan to protect herself and her children. Okay, so this whole time that she's mattered in a hornet's nest about this harassment she's getting, in the end, she's really thinking about her children. If I get too out of line here, don't cooperate to a certain point, they may do something bad to my children. So, she decides she'll clean the turkey and she's going to cook the turkey and she's going to serve the turkey. But the only way she thinks she can maybe get her children out of harm's way is she's going to try to get these loyalists. Alec, what's her plan?
Yeah. Oh, so plan is to
Well, just tell me what the initial part of the plan is. Don't ruin my whole lecture.
okay.
So what's her plan to get her children safe? Well, not yet, but she is. He's got it right. But to take the guns away so they're not paying attention, what's she going to do? Maybe you didn't get this part. She's going to get them drunked up. Yeah, she's going to get them all drunked up. So she just keeps throwing the spirits at them, which is what they called alcohol in those days. She's feeding them this turkey and she just keeps throwing the old spirits at them, hoping to get them drunked up enough that she can disarm them, just like Alex said. So she doesn't resist. She comes up with a plan to protect herself and her children. She decides to try and get the loyalists so drunk that she can disarm them and send for help. That's kind of her plan. Well, the loyalists, picture this, had stacked all their muskets up by the door when they came in. And as they drank more and more spirits, Nancy started sneaking the muskets out to her daughter, who was outside the house. So she was sneaking muskets out kind of one at a time. Okay? So these loyalists are having a good time. They stacked up their muskets by the door. They're eating this turkey. They're drinking more and more and more spirits. And when she thinks the time is right, she kind of stands over there and starts sneaking these muskets out the door. Well, what happens, Brianna? What's that? They catch her. Yeah, they catch her. And before they can do anything, she grabs one of those muskets and yells, "Stop! The first one who twitches, I shoot stone dead." So she's got some of these muskets out, and somebody catches her. She picks up one of those muskets, takes the hammer back and points it to the small group of loyalist militia and says, "Stop! The first one who twitches, I shoot stone dead." Well, one didn't believe her. He moved toward her, and what'd she do? Shot him stone dead and grabbed another musket and basically made her point. Okay? So when one man moves toward her, she shoots him down, grabs another musket and holds the others off until when? What's help? And including who? Her husband. Her husband and this patriot militia come back home. They get back home, and she's got these guys held off.
What's his husband look like?
Well, I don't know. I never did get the description of him.
6'7",
Yeah.
340 pounds.
Well, we'll tell you the story here. So, again, when one man moves toward her and she shoots him down and holds the others off until her husband and patriot militia ride back home. Well, her husband wants to shoot the loyalists on the spot. She won't let him. Okay? So her husband wants to shoot these loyalist militiamen on the spot. And she will not let him. So what's that tell you about her a little bit, Ellen? She has a little bit of compassion, you think? Does everybody agree with that? So let me read that to you again. Her husband wants to shoot the loyalists on the spot, but she will not let them, saying, "No, that's too good for them. I want to see them strung up."
Oh yeah.
And that's exactly what they do, is they hang them all. On her orders. Am I right? Is that what you got?
Wow.
Yeah. She was nobody full. And no, I didn't pick on you there, but that's what everybody says. "Oh, she's not such a nice..." No. Her husband wants to shoot the loyalists on the spot, and she will not let him, say, "No, that's too good for them. I want to see them strung up," which is exactly what they did to him. Hung them all. Well, the point is that skirmish by skirmish, local patriots like Nancy Hart start to slow the British advance in the South. She's one of several unsung heroes that we have talked about that will join the Patriot side and try to push the British out of the South eventually. Not going to happen right away. Well, here I want to kind of finish in a way with this. So, if you think about what we've said, every clash in the South deepens the hate between the Americans who are fighting on rival sides, right? Okay, you've got local loyalist militia, you've got American army men and American patriot militia. Well, on October 7th of 1780, there was a battle fought in North Carolina called the Battle of Kings Mountain. Okay? On October 7th, 1780, in North Carolina, there was a battle fought called the Battle of Kings Mountain. Now, in this Battle of Kings Mountain, there are approximately 2,000 men on both sides fighting each other. Approximately 2,000 men on both sides fighting each other. Okay? So, on October 7th of 1780, the Battle of Kings Mountain is fought in North Carolina. And in this battle, more than 2,000 men are fighting each other, about 1,000 on each side. Of these more than 2,000 men, Jada, how many are British soldiers? Okay, now I want to repeat that. Okay, there's a battle called the Battle of Kings Mountain in North Carolina between the British, so to speak, and the Americans. In that battle at Kings Mountain, how many British soldiers are involved?